success sake, and high performance success coach to CEOs, founders, and leaders. Welcome, Christina. It's so great to have you here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Maggie.
Well, it's been years. I mean, I think the last time I was doing a seminar for your team, because you're like, come on back, Mag. I think I'd already left Martha, but you thankfully brought me in, which I appreciate. And I think we were talking working smarter, not harder. So you really took that advice to heart.
You taught me a lot, Maggie.
Yeah. Well, you're here to teach us a lot, which is wonderful. I can't wait to hear more about your perspective. I'm so inspired following you on social media. And, so much to your life story that has, obviously affected so many. And now you're turning this into something so helpful. And I can't wait to hear all about it. So here, let me let people in on who you are. And I can't believe after 30 years, which you look fabulous. But after 30 years of leading sales and marketing teams at media brands, including Martha Stewart Living Omni Media, which is where we met, as well as Fast Company, you now help leaders and businesses achieve more than they thought possible. So tell us about that. That's something my listeners want to know how to do as well.
We had a lot to talk about here. There's a lot. It's a very meaty topic. So thanks for having me again. I do work with high achievers. And high achievers by definition are driven, and oftentimes it can lead to burnout. Mm-hmm. They're driven in doing all the things, and sometimes they lose clarity of what and how they are achieving. Sometimes they get lost in the calendar and lose sight of their vision. So I work with high achievers to help them achieve more of what they want and to let go of the work that is no longer serving them.
That's probably not easy.
It's not.
Or maybe really easy, depending on how you look at it.
Well, it takes some work. It really takes defining what you want and defining what you no longer work, and then figuring out systems and processes and support systems that you may need. And it doesn't happen in one day, of course.
Well, it didn't become a problem in one day either, did it?
No.
Right.
I mean, oftentimes I work with people to really include super think time in their weeks. So they're thinking
super think time.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I put 4 hours, 2 hours on Tuesday, 2 hours on Thursday. It's my super think time. And it's the time that I think about the future I'm creating, the legacy I want to have, the significance I want to bring to my work and to my future. And at working with a coach, I'm like a thinking partner with my clients, and I help them to slow down, to spend that time to help them see the future that they want to create, so then they can decide ahead of time who they're becoming.
Wow. I mean, taking your head out of the forest or out of the tree so you can see the forest, right? Kind of getting people to dial back from all the doing, and they can focus. I love that, on a human being, right? Who they want to be. I love that.
Yeah, it's really about helping them develop their self-concept as a leader. Defined, it's decided ahead of time, and then you create a plan to get there.
How far off do you find people are on when they do their self-concept? Are they like, oh my gosh, I'm not really being who I want to be, and I never really thought about it? Or is it tweaks, or is it major changes that you've seen?
Well, it's both, but it's really getting defined and decided ahead of time. We are on the hamster wheel every day, doing. Our calendar is full. Our calendar kind of is leading us. We're not leading the calendar. So it's really about slowing down and spending time to get decided ahead of time.
Yeah, this is a real theme. The slowing down theme came up in a beach yoga class, which, cry me a river. But even I wasn't taking advantage of it because my schedule was too busy.
Right.
But there's that whole idea of slowing down. So what keeps leaders and business owners from really reaching their full potential, Christina? What have you seen get in their way?
Well, I read a study about success. The Cambridge Institute of Technology did some research to find out what is the components of success. And they said it was environment, skill, and psychology. And psychology is really mindset. And then when you look deeper into the research, it said that 85% of a person's success is driven by their mindset. So think about it. When we're on that hamster wheel running every single day, we are probably having a mind that is probably a little bit out of control. Because the most common theme I see with my clients, they're accomplished, they're successful, they're interesting, they're powerful people, but they all kind of have the same things in common. They lack confidence at times. They compare and despair with others. They have cycles of imposter syndrome, shame and blame themselves. They feel like they're never doing enough or there never is enough time. And those are all mindset issues. I kind of call it like the messy mind. And this is when the who you want to be as a leader becomes unclear and unfocused. And how that shows up, that unclear and unfocused, is like a calendar that's out of control. You're doing hard work, you're working hard, but you're not really doing the hard work. You're getting distracted. Guess what? That to-do list just gets longer.
Right.
So when your mind is leading from the leader's chair, from the CEO's chair, because we're all the sort of CEO of me, when you're leading from your vision and your plan, and you are minding your mind while you're doing it, you show up calmer, less distracted. You show up more intentional, clear, decisive. And guess what? You recover much faster when you get, hit with a detour or a fire drill. And that's when change happens, not from the crazy, never-ending to-do list driven by the thoughts that you're behind, you're busy, and you're hustling to grow.
Wow. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are, we got really productive during the pandemic, right? Because people didn't have a lot else to do, right? But then it became a bit of a hamster wheel, and a lot of people's priorities started to shift. They started to realize, I want to have a life, not just a job, right? Or not just a career. And this is a huge part of that, right? Being present in your own life.
And I would say, like, there's no balance, right? The work-life balance, there really is no balance, but you can make it more in balance to the degree that you can. I think that leaders that achieve their highest potential, they're intentional, they're deliberate, and they're consistent with managing what they want. And it's really about like that super think time, slowing down to say, how do I want to be intentional, deliberate, and consistent next week to achieve what I want? We got to kind of let go of the negative thoughts, see them for what they are, and then bring in the thoughts that we want to create the outcomes that we want.
Yeah, it really all ties together. So is that the formula, or is there another formula you found that really works for people? And do you have a success story with that?
Well, I think everybody's formula is going to be different, but if you slow down and become a little bit more intentional by what you're trying to create for yourself and your future, that's the best place to start. I worked with one company and still work with them, and I've helped them in about 3 years increase their valuation 5 times.
Wow.
I know they did.
That's a success story.
They've done the hard work. It's a women's health company. And the doctor who founded the company actively practiced medicine when we started working together. And to scale her company and lead from her vision, this magical vision she had, she really needed the plan to get her out of the daily practice of medicine. Think about the hamster wheel too here, to work on building the brand and the proprietary research and the medical algorithms, which ultimately drove her 5x in valuation in just 3 years. What changed the most was her mindset, from a doctor who serves patients to a CEO in service of her company's mission. And as our coach, we created awareness, acceptance, permission. Permission's a big one there, and deserving, and feeling like you can deserve 5x valuation in 3 years. And we created an action plan to get there. She decided ahead of time who she wanted to become. And from there, began showing up as the future leader and making decisions from that future desire.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. Now, you've got your own success story, I'm happy to report. After a diagnosis of AML leukemia in 2019, you say that you decided to let go of the debilitating should have, would have, and could haves, that kind of mindset, and started owning your own success. And you're with your own vision for living, and I love this, an extraordinary life. So you're really going for it, which I think is great. Yeah. So how hard was that for you, Christina? And what steps did you take?
I felt like I was perfect on paper and perfectly miserable. I've had all of these titles and worked for these great companies, but like I had the whispers and the gnawing that something wasn't quite right. And when you ask me, like, if it was hard, it was hard. And it took me 30 years to decide to change. That shoulda, woulda, coulda running around my head. It was like squirrels running around inside my head. It had this sort of weird spiral of shame. And it was my messy mind was really at work. I needed to do the hard work on my mindset. I needed to recognize that my mind was what was holding me back. I needed to build belief in myself and believe that taking a different path towards my passion was okay, even if I missed the mark. We're not really taught to believe in ourselves or trust ourselves. And, when you're hit with the diagnosis of cancer, you really have a lot of time to think. And I kind of talk about my treatment. It was about 12 months. And I talk about it as being sort of that, instead of PSD, it was like post-traumatic growth syndrome. I grew a lot because I got the time to slow down to really get decided. And I wrote the book for success sake from the thought that I don't want other people to have a health crisis or get burnt out before they decide, my happiness, my success, my fulfillment is really something I don't have and I want to create for myself. So I defined success for myself. That was part of it. Like, what is success? And after doing some work, for me, it's the feeling of success full. Full is Full, full of ease, joy, and impact. And while I defined it, I created that mission for an extraordinary success because I do think you have to go big. I work on it every day. It doesn't mean that every day is not hard. It just means that more days are more joyful than before.
Nice. Wow. Well, it shows. And your book, For Success Sake, there we go. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's available on Amazon. And it offers lots of great success advice. And I loved your opening quote. You say, the most influential person in your life is you. And when you recognize your influence over you, it's a game changer. So how can we become our own biggest influencer and change the game we're playing for the better, Christina?
So we've heard of the term influencer. There are influencers on social media. And when I think about that, like, for me, I am no longer looking for outside validation. I'm no longer looking for permission from someone or something to do what I want to do. And I'm no longer following others' paths. I've decided I'm going to create my path, right or wrong. I'll find my way. Success is not something that's like somewhere out there. It really is an inside job. Now, when I'm uncertain or unclear, I don't have the answers, I look inside myself for the answer. And that's not to say that I don't do research or ask for help or feedback, but ultimately I look at what I've already achieved and what I know I can achieve to influence where I'm going. Steve Jobs had this great quote. At the Stanford commencement address he gave many years ago, he said, you can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them going backward. So I tell clients when they're off course to go back to mind their past for their answers to their future. What lit them up? When were they at their best? Who were they surrounded by? What were they doing? What did they learn about themselves? Knowing that will likely help you see that kind of red thread that you can pull forward to your future.
Yeah, for sure. I love those times of ecstatic engagement is what I call
them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So you also say in the book, and you kind of said this earlier, but don't wait for that cancer diagnosis or other health crises to become the best version of yourself or create all that you want in your life. So is there you've shared a lot of great advice today. Are there any other words of wisdom though, that for living the best versions of ourselves that you found really work for people?
That's a big question. I said it earlier.
Yeah, I'm not giving you the softballs today, Christina. I know how good you are. I'm really giving you the tough ones.
I think I'd start by saying, get defined about what your best version is. And that doesn't mean it has to be a perfect definition. It just means it has to be the definition where you're going to start defining your definition, right? Just get started. People wait. They wait for more money in the bank. They wait for their kids to grow up. No, stop staying and wait. Life is not a waiting room. right?
I love that. That should be a billboard every 5 miles.
Life is not a
Life
waiting
is
room.
not a waiting room, right?
Let's get started. And like you write your own life script, right?
Mhm.
Um, I would also offer that focus on what's working, not
Mm.
what's not working,
Mm.
you know? I often say, because I know you talk a lot about career and career development, I would also say that job titles don't make an impact. The people behind them do.
Mm.
And we think about careers, I would say career paths in the right direction are only right if you are happy, if you're growing, and if you are in service of others.
I think a lot of people would change their careers if they really use that definition. We're still at an
Right.
abysmal like 35, maybe 40, 45%. I mean, that's still a lot of unhappy people.
A lot of
I
them.
like that definition.
And I think also thinking about you have to teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And some of that negative, messy mind I was talking about is one way we don't treat ourselves very well. So we've got to think about how do we want to treat ourselves? How do we want to stop breaking promises to ourselves? Because if we don't break promises to ourselves, it's likely people will see that and they're not going to break promises to themselves or to us any longer.
I love that. That's a really good one. A lot of times we let other people get away with things, and we're the ones actually even negative self-talk. I saw a statistic about the number of thoughts we have every day and the fact that majority of them are negative. So if that's your internal mind, that is messy and that's hard to overcome and be confident and all these wonderful things. Believe in yourself when you're not even speaking kindly within your own mind. So that's a big shift.
And we're not. And like Misery Loves Company, we all have
Mm,
thousands and thousands. They say 60,000 thoughts a day, right? We all have these thoughts, and most of them are negative.
yeah.
So you have to see them. You have to become aware of them so that you can decide what are the thoughts that you really want to have. But first, you have to recognize those negative thoughts. I offer that taking a journal practice, starting a journal practice is one way of helping you see those negative thoughts. People say, well, I don't want a journal. They think it's like a 4-letter word. I start people off by saying, just write every single day, what worked yesterday? What didn't work yesterday? And what will I do differently today? And oftentimes when you go through this practice, it could take maybe 10 minutes a day. You know, we spend so much time training for marathons and beating our personal best on Peloton. We're training all the time. How about training your brain just 10 minutes a day by journaling what worked, what didn't work, what will I do differently? And then you can add to it by asking yourself, who do I want to become? Who am I right now? Because sometimes when you start writing about these things, the negative thoughts, you'll start seeing the negative thoughts and you'll see, is there evidence to support that I'm an imposter or I'm not good enough? Where is the real evidence? Evidence that can be, when I say evidence, I mean like can be proven in a court of law. Because if it can't be proven in a court of law, there's no real fact. So journaling has been life-changing for me and has helped me sort of define who I wanted to be just through what I'm putting on the pages of my morning pages.
Yes, and you have a fabulous newsletter, which I'll include links to as well, because I know how you have all your thoughts. And then the book is also very inspiring. I mean, obviously, listening to you has been so inspiring. So where can people find out more about you, Christina?
So the newsletter, you can subscribe to my newsletter on my website, ChristinaLangdon.com. It comes out on Sunday morning, 6 a.m. And I started writing it about 4 years ago in pursuit of beating the Sunday scaries, which is sort of people get anxious before the week ahead. So I want to give them like thinking each week about how they can take on the work week ahead and look forward to it. You can find me on Instagram at Christina Langdon Boss Lady. And then, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Well, boss lady, you're a fabulous boss. I think everyone would love to work with you and for you after hearing you today. And I have always been a fan, and I'm only a bigger one now. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you sharing your messages and your story and your perspective. And I'm so happy that you're happy and healthy and doing such great work. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. It's been really a gift to be here.